Michelle, great to see you.
Great to see you again, Kimberly.
Life is good. I understand your first building in this mega project you have. The first building is almost complete. Is that accurate?
Yeah. We're gonna open June 1st for some outdoor events, and then the interior and everything will be done July, August. Hopefully all my upholstery shows up.
Does it feel like a coming out party or something? Like this is it's a first of all, just for anybody who missed the other episode with you and Brandon, tell us the size and scale of this enormous project.
Okay, so this project is called Wahali. That is Native American for eagle. It is in Utah, right outside of Park City. The premises, it's based on a English, Irish, or Scottish village. It's a exclusive golf resort community. The it takes up 5,000 acres of mountains in Utah, and there will be about 500,000 square feet of amenity buildings, 300 village homes.
500,000 square feet. I'm trying to wrap my head
Well,
around this.
so I have two pool houses. I have a lake house, which is restaurants. The lake house is restaurants, all the exercise facilities, yoga facilities. There's a boutique hotel. I'll have retail for small shops. I have a actually my starter cabin's also done too. I'll have a little shack. We're gonna have our own little ski resort, like a small ski resort on site for people. So we have have a small ski cabin. We have one of our biggest building is called the Hobbit Hole, and it's completely underground. So you can only get to it while you're on the golf course, and it'll feel like a Hobbit hole inside, but it's all domed, completely underground, so it doesn't obstruct anybody's view. And then we have 300 village homes. The village homes will be tight and close to each other, like in a village, but they're not small. The smallest one is 3,000 square feet, and the biggest one is 7,000 square feet. And then, in addition to that, there are 200 custom home sites on the project. Those people will be able to build with any designer or builder architect that they choose. However, our design firm will be available to those people as well. And we
Wow.
just did our first one. I just pitched my first one yesterday. So that's starting.
Wow. This is like mind bending. I mean, this is a whole career in one job. For most people, this is more than, I mean, certainly more than I've ever done in my entire
Yeah, I won't ever have to get another job. In fact, I just signed a contract that I won't take jobs outside of Wahali anymore. I get to finish my current jobs, and then I can still do collaborations and product design and other things like that. But as far as jobs, like custom jobs outside of Wahali, I've just agreed not to take anymore because I think I have enough on my
I
hands.
think you may have enough, yeah. And this is a perfect lead into a conversation we wanted to have, which is about an A team. If there was ever a time when you needed an A team, it's when you have, I don't know, how many acres of project?
5,000.
5,000 acres. That's when you need an A team, right?
It's
You're
it's a
gonna get
lot.
to,
How
you're
big is it? I think
right.
it's big.
It's big. That sounds big. Yeah. But you're going to need those people that you rely on. And not only is this a career defining moment for you, and probably you'll never have to look for another job again, but for many of your A team, that could turn out to be what happens for them as well. Like you may end up with a full-time carpenter, full-time electrician, full-time plumber, or many of them, which is really exciting.
It's really exciting. So my A team is vital for this job. And in two aspects, I got this job because of my A team. So I worked with the same cabinet guy for years and years and years. And then he ended up changing jobs and went to do some other things. I kept working, which let me back up. His cabinet company was a family business. Okay, so he left the family business and started doing some other projects. And I kept working with that firm there because I love that those cabinet makers. They're fantastic. And anyways, then he got hired at Wahali as a director of interior construction. And when they hired him, he said, "Hey guys, I mean, this is fantastic, but I can't do pillows, and like I don't. Who's going to pick the paint, and who's going to pick the flooring, and who's going to pick the tile?" And so they decided they needed a designer, and he said, "Well, I think we should talk to the what did he say? I think I was the least diva designer he knew of all the designers that he had worked with over the years at his cabinet company."
Right.
And so there was a design firm that got fired before me, and they had interviewed two others.
Right.
And then I was the third one to be interviewed. And that's how I got the job. Now that I have the job, the thing that I didn't expect that has surprised me is the attention that this job is getting from some of my suppliers. I didn't expect, I guess I was naive to how big it is. So I have vice presidents of sales of 5 different corporations right now stalking me. I mean, they're fantastic. But I mean, appliance people, faucet people, lighting people,
Oh, yeah.
Furniture companies, like retail furniture companies. They're after me. They want the job. And what's been so great about that is that they're working for me now, and I don't have to pay them. So they're part of my A team and part of my network, but I can call up my plumbing guy and say, I need to see 6 different faucets in a brushed brass, and I need to see them by tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I need them in these styles. And sure enough, what happens? It gets delivered to me. So it's fantastic that, because if you can keep those relationships strong and have mutual respect for your A team, it's so reciprocal. They'll work for you and you'll work for them, and it'll end up being so fantastic.
Well, and you become kind of on a smaller scale from everybody, most people listening, I assume, on a smaller scale, you get to know each other so well. And so if my plumber's on site and the client has a question or whatever, they kind of know me so well that they know what I might say. So, right. So they can respond, or they know me so well that they'll call and say, I didn't like the tone of this question. I think you might have a client who's, itchy. You better give him a call, or right. Like there's so much benefit to getting that relationship sorted and keeping it strong.
I agree. And you know what I think that does that helps your relationship get really strong, is to give credit where credit is due.
Mm-hmm.
So on every job that you ever come up on, I don't care if it's new construction or it's a remodel, there's always going to be some sort of an issue. There's always a problem. There's always something unexpected. And if your subcontractor is the one that comes up with the fabulous solution to the problem, they love having you say that to the client in front of them and giving them that credit. And then what'll happen is exactly what you just said, is that if they ever talk to the client and you're not there, they'll give you the credit that is due to you. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was Kimberly's idea. She came up with that. She fixed this problem. I mean, it's exactly what you were just saying a minute ago. It's so reciprocal. They'll give it right back to you.
Yeah. And those relationships, as much as they can benefit you, they can really hurt you if you're treating them like it's a hierarchy and you're the boss and they work for you and they shouldn't ask questions. They should just do what you say. You're going to find yourself in trouble. So it goes back to something you said on the last podcast, which was you have to stay curious. You have to stay educated. You have to ask questions. I don't know what the electrician's constraints are. I think move that fixture over there. That sounds easy to me, but I'm not an electrician. You might say, oh, here's 28 reasons why we can't do that, So I need to ask them sometimes, what's a solution? This is what I'm looking for. What solution would you come up with for that?
I think that it is really important to sometimes just be quiet and learn. When I first started, I didn't understand millwork very well, and I remember showing up, and the builder that was doing the job hired this master craftsman that was about to retire, and he was going on and on and on one day. And I remember standing there thinking, I don't understand anything he's saying. So I just furiously started taking notes. And then I went home and like Googled all the things that he was saying so that I could figure out what he was saying. But now I can hold a conversation with any master mill worker guy, I can, because I took the time to stop and listen and learn.
And they
And then,
appreciate that, right?
oh, yeah, they appreciate that. Absolutely. Especially if you say, I think something that's really worked for me is to say, I'm really confident in my design, but I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you've got, your experience has shown that something else could work better, then I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to say back to a comment you made a minute ago is that if you do treat them poorly or you do sort of act like you're above them, it can really hurt your relationships. And I almost lost a fantastic relationship with a really good plumbing firm because I was almost really snippy with a guy for leaving early one day. And I could have really wrecked that relationship, and then the next time that plumber gets a phone call and they need to recommend a designer, they're certainly not going to recommend me.
Right. Or the next time you need a favor, they're going to go, I remember that comment you made. So
Yeah.
how I can be guilty of being hyper focused on the goal. I need this thing done. And what that means sometimes is I'm not as personable as I should be to my trades. I have to remind myself to stop, say hello. How are you? It won't kill me to say, how was your weekend?
What
Right?
did you do
What?
this? What did you do this weekend?
Right? But I truly have to remind myself of that. Act like a human being, slow down for 2 seconds, right? So do you do that too? Do you have much of a close personal relationship with your A team? And how do you develop that?
Yeah, I think it's important that I don't necessarily hang out with my A team on the weekends, but I think it's important to know about their life. So I just learned a couple of weeks ago that my new electrician at Wahali is like a competitive barbecue master. Like he goes to barbecue competitions on the weekends.
That's so cool.
I don't know anyone who does that.
Yeah.
And another guy throws axes in his spare time. So just asking a question once in a while and then remembering it and doing a follow-up. So now it's important that I said, what'd you do last weekend? And Chris said, oh, I was in Arizona at a barbecue competition. So then when I see him in a couple of weeks, I can say, hey, when's your next competition? What are you going to cook?
Right.
Just showing that little bit shows that you care about them. A couple of months ago, I was talking to one of my subcontractors, and he had said to me that he had found out that who he thought was his dad was not his dad. And so he had no idea, like, right?
Big bomb.
It's kind of a bomb. And I was like, oh shoot, what do I do with this information? But then he had said to me, I'd like to really know what my origins are from. And so I went online, I spent $100 and I bought him an ancestry kit and I left it on his workbench. And I didn't even write a card. I just wrote to Bill on it and I left it on his workbench. He found me 3 days ago. This sweet man, like almost teary. I mean, he's like a rough and tumble contractor and he was almost teary. And he was like, thank you so much. I can't wait to find out where I'm from.
That's so sweet.
That is the kind of thing.
Yeah.
Your contractors will remember you. I don't care if that means on Fridays you show up with a case of beer or on Monday mornings you show up with 6 coffees. It doesn't matter, but just taking a minute to recognize that they are more than labor, and that they have families and that they have concerns and they have stressors. If you can just take a few minutes to recognize them as craftsmen and as people, they're going to do everything they can for you.
I'm hosting a party in June at a project and I'm inviting all my trades and they're all so excited about it. So
great idea.
I'm inviting all the trades from all the projects. Not some of them didn't even work on this particular project, but it just works out. The clients are great. They don't care. It's being catered and all that kind of stuff. But I find if I do that once in a while, it goes such a long way, just such a long way. They never get to see the finished job, right? They come in halfway and they see their part, but they never get to see the whole thing all done with the artwork hanging and all the last pillow in place and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to really spoil them, and everybody's going to go home with a gift. I haven't quite figured out that, but and I don't have much time. I got to get on this, but yeah, that reminds me, it's really important to maintain that human connection with your trades and to understand that they have a life too. It's not just about me, is it?
And if you can do an event like that, I think it really matters too. If possible, it's also fun to let people invite their families. If it's sort of open house style, that they can bring their kids and be like, this is what I do all day, you know? I mean, it can be a really amazing thing just to let people brag about themselves for 5 minutes.
Yeah, give them a minute. What would
Yeah.
you say to that person who's listening who says, oh, great for you guys, you have your A team, but I'm really struggling. I can't find my A team. What advice would you give that person? How can they get that first A team member?
Well, I think it's definitely about relationships. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. And so you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit, ask lots of questions, admit that you don't have an A team. So if let's say you have a fantastic electrician, and you could say to him, hey, listen, I really trust you. I really like working with you. On some of your other jobs, who's a plumber that you see on site that you really like? Or ask a siding guy if he knows a roofer that is really reputable, or ask for those connections, because connections are really important. And sometimes online connections work, but really, and I think in our industry, it's on-site connections that are really more important. If you don't have anyone and you're just starting, I would go visit job sites. I mean, get scrappy, drive around in a neighborhood of the kind of homes that you want to be building, the projects you want to be working on, and walk in there and talk to the guy that's plastering the wall.
Yeah.
Talk to the guy that's, doing the flat work of the concrete outside. Just say, hey, I'm new. Here's my card. I'm trying to make some good contacts. I noticed that your work here is really good. Can I have your card so that when I have my next job, I have someone to call? So it's boots on the ground, hard work. Get out there, talk to people. I would say local magazines might help with that a little bit, to see
Local shops.
advertisements, local shops, even furniture stores.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times furniture stores will have in-house designers. And while they may not be doing construction, they probably know finish workers, and they probably know painters, and they probably know good cabinet companies, and they're going to know good drapery people,
Yeah.
So I would just say you just have to start talking, and you've got to get out there and
Yeah.
introduce yourself to people.
And like you said, once you get one, they will lead you to others.
Absolutely.
They'll figure out that you're nice to work with, and they'll tell their friends to come and work with you too, or those trades that they work with on every single job.
But what you just said is important. You have to be nice to work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be firm too. Like it's tricky, right? You do have to have boundaries. You do have to make sure you're running a business that, runs on time and on budget. So there have been times where we had somebody we thought was an A team member who turned into a B or a C, and then there have been other times where somebody was kind of a B, but they stepped it up and became an A when they saw what that meant and what that looked like. So like everything, nothing's going to be fixed in stone. I have about 4 trades that I've had since the 90s.
Wow.
That's a long time. In fact, I just saw my painter on a job site last week, and he said, well, what are we doing? Are we still working? Because we made a pact like 20 years ago. I'll retire when you retire. So he's like, I want to still work. You want to still? I'm like, absolutely, I want to still work. He's like, okay. I'm just checking in, just checking in.
Well, I think what you said is really important, but I think there's a difference in being personable and caring about people and being firm. And if you care about them and you have shown an interest in their life, then when you are firm and you're direct, because I'm telling you what, it's just so much easier to be direct. Don't beat around the bush. Just say it how it is. Let the people digest it, and then you'll move along faster. But when you have to be direct, when you say to them, you know what, you guys are doing great work, but you're taking them way too long. I need you to move along a little bit faster. Or you have to have those direct moments. They're going to respond better if you've been kind along the way.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I want to take us down one more path, which has to do with language and management styles. And this is grossly generalizing, but I've seen a lot of females on a job site with men resort to kind of like, oh, I'm so weak. I don't know how to do anything. You're just so like, don't do that. Don't manipulate. Being direct is really important if you want to gain the respect of your trades, right? You know what I mean? Like, oh, geez, sorry to bother you because I know you're so important and la 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 la. But if you could maybe do this thing for me, it would really help me. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
don't do that.
Don't do
In
that.
fact, I did a career night for a youth group a couple nights ago, and they asked, one of the questions was, what is it like day to day? And I'm like, you know what? Or what was the question was day to day, and then the other question was, does anything gross or weird ever happen? And I said, well, I see a lot of plumber crack and electrician crack, but other than that, like nothing gross ever really happens on my jobs, but the but I had to say to them, I work mostly with men. I
Mhm.
mean, when I'm at Sienna and I'm designing lighting, I get the incredible opportunity to work with other designers, which I love. But when I'm just at my design firm, I work with mostly men. I mean, there's a couple of women in our trade. I know a great woman plumber, and I've got one of our inspectors locally is a woman, and I love it when I get to see them. But acting like a damsel in distress isn't going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to get you any respect.
Mhm.
If you don't know what you're talking about, Google it before you go, or show up on site and sit still and just pay attention to the things that are happening around you to learn. But I couldn't agree with you more. There's acting like a victim or acting like you're less than is not a good way to run your business. But I do think there's space to say, I'm confident in what I've got here, but I'm willing to hear other ideas.
Yeah, I like how you word that. I really do.
Yeah.
So Michelle, we end every episode with design intervention. What comes to mind?
Well, it's funny that you just brought that up because my design intervention, I think, would be right along those lines of value and worth, and not, understanding your worth. I don't think that my design intervention is kind of around Instagram. I don't feel like Instagram is a good measurement tool for success.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of designers, especially young designers, get really overwhelmed with what's out there on the internet. And if I'm not posting a new project and fabulous photography weekly, then I must not be any good, or I'm never going to find success. I'm terrible at Instagram. I've never utilized it. I probably need to now that I'm going to have a lighting line and I want people to buy it. So I need to probably jump into it a little bit more. But if you've got time, I want to tell you a quick story. I was scrolling Instagram one day and I saw this designer's story, and she was on a road trip with her team and they were going to do an out of town install. And it was like, it looked so fabulous. And had a little pity party for a minute, like, oh, I don't have any photography to post this month. I don't have any, I was feeling really badly about myself. Well, then I turned on, I think it was the Cherish podcast. And I heard a designer, a very well-known designer, say that he wished he could get a hotel job. And I was like, whoa, I have a hotel job. What am I doing? Why was I feeling bad for myself? I was comparing
Yeah.
myself. And then I got thinking, I've done out of town installs. Oh my gosh, that's so much work. That lady is not posting that she's not sleeping and that she's eating like peanuts because they don't have time to go out and get food. You know what I mean? Like, it just is.
Yeah.
I was caught myself, even after all these years. This was like 6 months ago. I caught myself in the comparison.
Yeah.
I'd also say that you should, with what you do put on Instagram, keep it focused for what your goals are. I mean, if your goal is that you want collaborations and you want to get into product design, then you're going to post different things than if you just want to be a really good member of your community and help the people in your community
Yeah.
their homes. So think about what you're posting, and don't measure your success based on your followers, because I'm telling you what, I know a lot of really good designers who don't do anything on Instagram. And
Right.
then I know a lot
Busy
of
working.
they're busy working, and I know other designers that have 30,000 followers and they mostly repost other people's stuff and they
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? So I would just say, don't let Instagram measure your worth.
Yeah. I like that. Good advice. Well,
Oh,
we definitely want to stay in touch, and I want to see photos of your mega project as it comes to life over the years. We're going to be so excited to root for you. And thank you so much. It was great seeing you.
it's great seeing you again, Kimberly. I can't wait to meet you in person one day.
I know, right?
Oh, and I meant to ask you about Australia. We'll do that next time, maybe.
It was great. What about it?
Was it a great time?
Oh my God, I love it there. It's fantastic. And the designers are really mature. Like they have pretty sophisticated, they're sophisticated in terms of how they run their business and the way that they deal with clients. Like it's just really cool to learn something else. And then they have, very real logistical problems. Getting things to Australia is hard, right? It's similar. Canada, we're getting product to Canada. All of our population is spread across the southern border, right? And it's very far apart. It's a very, very big country, and we're far apart. So delivery and logistics and freight and customs and duty and all that stuff's a big deal. And the Australians feel that way too. So anyway, I can't wait to go back. I'll be going back. I think we're going back in April because we have one boss group that's having a meeting, and then we have an Australian group that's starting, BOD Boss Australia starting, which is really cool. So I'm excited about that.
That was an event I wished could have squeezed onto my calendar, but it did not happen. But I'm glad you had a good
April.
time.
Come in April.
It sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the weekend.
Okay, you too.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye.